breaking news.
For almost 50 years, we've been praying for this. I was just thrilled, excited, and extremely emotional.
And 50 years later, the U.S. Supreme Court has overturned Roe v. Wade, ending a person's constitutional right to have an abortion. The decision sending shockwaves across Georgia and the nation.
How can I not rejoice that the most defenseless are going to be protected?
This is a step backwards. It means that we have to mobilize. We have to sound the alarm.
Tonight, the president sending a warning as some groups share fear of the future.
This is extreme and dangerous path the court is now taking us on.
You are taking a live look right now at the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., where all-day disagreeing groups have rallied following the court's decision. It's looking like they just started clearing out in the past few minutes. And here in Georgia, it has cleared the way for the heartbeat bill to become law, and that would ban abortions when a fetal heartbeat can be detected, which is about 6 weeks into a pregnancy. This decision also really sparking rallies all over, including in downtown Atlanta. It was pretty crazy to see, just how those crowds developed over the past few hours.
It's really active down there, Savannah. So it gives us a chance, folks, to hear from both sides of the issue. We have live team coverage for you tonight, looking at how pro-choice and pro-life parties are actually handling today's controversial decision and what they plan on doing next. We're going to kick things off with Hope Ford. She's live at the state capitol tonight. Hope?
And people who support the Supreme Court's decision today include the sponsor of Georgia's own restrictive abortion law. The creator of that bill says today's decision gives hope to advocates for stricter gun laws in Georgia. State Representative Ed Setzler says all life is worthy of protection. Living Infants Fairness and Equality Act in Georgia, commonly known as the Heartbeat Bill. Georgia's law bans abortion after 6 weeks, except in certain situations. The law was held up in court, so the Supreme Court's decision is a welcomed one by Setzler.
You've got a living, distinct human being that has a heartbeat. They're worthy of full legal protection, and really needed to have a ruling by the Supreme Court to adjudicate the question we raised, the personhood of the unborn child.
And others celebrating the decision include people attending the National Right to Life Convention, which is coincidentally holding a convention in Atlanta the same day as the Supreme Court's ruling.
So today there were a lot of tears, a lot of hugs, and then we immediately went back to work. So that is what we're going to be doing a lot of work.
And today, Georgia's Attorney General called on the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals to have the heartbeat law take effect. And experts tell us that decision could be made in a matter of days.
All right, Hope, thanks a lot for the update there today. DeKalb County's DA says that she vows not to prosecute people under the Georgia heartbeat law. Now, in a prepared statement, DA Sherry Boston says that law enforcement and prosecutors should not be thrust into this health space. And we also heard a similar thing from Fulton County's DA today. Fonnie Willis says that she will not use taxpayers' dollars to prosecute women based on their health care choices.
Just hours ago, marchers filled downtown Atlanta streets, protesters of all ages and backgrounds just beginning to mobilize, vowing to fight to try to reinstate abortion rights nationwide. Let's go now to John Sherrick at the state capitol. John, that's really the focal point of these crowds tonight, and you saw a lot of different people out there.
Families, children, parents, grandparents, young adults, and people who have never before come out to demonstrate about anything until now, all gathering here at the state capitol and marching through downtown with a common resolve. Over and over again, people telling me that the Supreme Court decision is not the end, but an interruption of the rights they want for themselves and their loved ones. There is anger and outrage, and there is resolve. People telling me they will focus on getting commitments from Georgia cities and counties and DAs and police not to enforce the state's pending anti-abortion law, and getting commitments from political candidates to take a stand with them for them and their children.
We want to be sure that our children grow up in a world where they have the same rights that we did.
Women's rights and women's reproductive rights have to matter. The fact that we are still 50 years later fighting for the causes that our grandmothers and our mothers have had to fight for is absolutely ridiculous.
A call to action tonight, everyone urging people to vote and to try to make a difference, try to make a change. They think they have years of work ahead of them to try to reinstate the rights they believe most Americans embrace. Savannah and Ron.
All right, thanks a lot, John. You know, right now concern is building among the LGBT community after the Supreme Court's ruling today. But advocates and legal experts say they should not panic about potentially losing rights like same-sex marriage and the right to contraception. 11 Alive Joe Ripley picks up our team coverage tonight.
And it feels like, this is a court from the 19th century.
Andrea Young with the ACLU of Georgia disapproves of the Supreme Court's decision on Dobbs versus Jackson, which effectively overturned Roe v. Wade. She says Friday's decision could lead to the risk of losing other rights for the LGBT community.
There is a real threat. The kind of reasoning that allows you to overthrow a 50-year precedent opens the door for certainly to overturn less robust and less long-lasting precedents.
Limiting their access to healthcare services that may be needed to save their life, that may be needed to protect them, and certainly may be needed to protect their bodily autonomy.
In his concurring opinion on Dobbs, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas said the court should reconsider precedents set in cases that established access to contraception and same-sex marriage as federally protected rights. Jeff Graham with Georgia Equality and Greg Nevins with Lambda Legal expect current marriages to be upheld and say there's no reason to panic.
There are a lot of reasons reading that decision to be nervous. The arguments we have going on our side will carry the day.
If we can expand and clarify the right to privacy in the state of Georgia, that's a win.
Joe Ripley, 11 Alive News.
The U.S. has the worst maternal mortality rate among developed nations, and Georgia ranks as one of the worst states in the country. Experts say communities of color here will be disproportionately affected, especially since for years they've already faced barriers when it comes to maternal health. Paula Suro explains.
Let's talk maternal mortality. Georgia has one of the worst ratios in the country. According to the Center for Reproductive Rights, Black women in the state are more than 3 times likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than white women. And Black babies here are twice as likely to die than white babies. Feminist Women's Health Center says overturning Roe could raise those alarming statistics even further.
There are folks who have access and privilege that are still going to be able to access abortions. Folks who already go through so much to come to our center. These are folks who are Black, who are brown, who are immigrants, who are refugees, who are survivors of violence. Those are the folks that have the most difficult time accessing the most important critical abortion care that they need.
But why? Aside from accessibility and transportation, the nonprofit organization says there are also financial barriers.
Not everyone is documented, so then there's another issue of health insurance. Even when folks do have health insurance, there are a lot of services that are not covered.
Hispanic Alliance Georgia explains many women from communities of color end up going straight to the hospital to give birth without seeing specialists throughout the pregnancy, without checking on their baby's health or their own, leading to more deaths.
We're talking about $150 a month for just the prenatal care. Yes, they can pay in installments, but for those living in poverty, that really means that they have a debt at the end of their pregnancy.
Latinos also face a language barrier.
They're very disconnected from the services.
Lack of education and medical mistrust has been a problem too. In Georgia, 23% of Black women and 49% of Hispanic women said they don't have a healthcare provider.
These are the folks that will be impacted by this the most, I feel.
And now they'll try to figure out new ways to help those already hard to reach.
Wow, interesting perspective there. Thanks to Paulo Suro for that report. We're going to get you over to the news of the day now, but in the next 10 minutes, we are going to go over the potential economic impacts of the Supreme Court's decision, as well as verifying if you'll still be able to get abortion pills in Georgia. That's all coming up.